People imagine a slow unraveling, a gentle drift into inconvenience. But here's the uncomfortable truth. 5 things collapse so fast in a grid failure that most people never even see them coming. They don't fail gracefully. They fall off a cliff. And if you're depending on any of them in those first hours, you're already behind. The first thing that goes isn't the lights. It's predictability. You don't notice it right away because everything still looks normal. The fridge hums for a few minutes, your phone still clings to its last percentage points, and your brain tries to file the moment under temporary annoyance. But the hidden backbone of modern life, timing, communication, and automated systems, loses synchronization instantly. Power plants talk to each other using signals that assume a stable grid. Water pumps rely on pressure readings that assume electricity is flowing. Sensors, switches, controllers, all of it assumes yesterday's reality is still true. The moment the grid drops, those assumptions become lies. And lies trigger cascading failures. Traffic lights freeze, cellular towers switch to battery backup, and digital payment networks grind to a halt. That's the first collapse. Your ability to predict what's happening next, because every system around you is suddenly improvising. Without predictability, small problems mutate faster than you can process them. The second collapse is clean water, and it doesn't wait politely for you to finish panic buying bottled gallons. Municipal water treatment and distribution rely on constant electricity to keep pumps running and pressure stable. Most cities have elevated tanks or limited backup generators, but those systems are sized for hours, not days. Here's the hidden danger. Even while water is still flowing, the quality starts degrading immediately. Without powered treatment plants removing pathogens, the water you trust begins drifting back toward whatever its natural state was before humans sanitized it. If you're counting on the tap to keep your household alive, you're assuming someone behind the scenes is still pushing buttons. But during a grid failure, nobody is. And once water pressure drops, contaminants can backflow into the system from cracks and leaks. Within 24 hours, even functional pipes can be carrying something you really don't want to drink. This is why every survival manual emphasizes the same thing: secure your water early. Store it before the clock runs out. Filtration and boiling work because they attack pathogens directly. Heat denatures microbial proteins, while filters physically remove them. The science is solid. It's your reaction time that determines whether it helps you. The third collapse is communication, and it fails faster than anyone expects. Cell towers typically have 4 to 8 hours of battery backup. Some have generators until the fuel runs out or maintenance crews fail to show up. During a widespread outage, everyone tries to call everyone at once, overloading the remaining towers. Data slows to a crawl, then it dies. Emergency services rely on radio networks that remain functional longer, but for civilians, the digital social fabric evaporates almost instantly. When you can't check news, can't call family, and can't verify rumors, fear fills the vacuum. People don't panic because the lights are off, they panic because nobody can tell them why. The best countermeasure is owning communication tools that don't rely on the conventional grid. NOAA radios, hand crank units, and, if you're dedicated enough, entry-level ham radios. They work because radio waves don't care about the power grid. They care about the laws of physics, which are thankfully more stable than our infrastructure. Once communication collapses, the fourth thing falls even faster: the supply chain. Most people imagine a grim movie montage of empty shelves after a few days. Reality is crueler. Supermarkets depend on computerized inventory, automatic restocking, timed deliveries, and payment systems that assume credit cards still function. Without power, none of those exist. Stores close their doors not because they're empty, but because they can't operate. Refrigerated goods begin spoiling immediately: meat, dairy, medications that require cold storage. By the time people realize the outage isn't temporary, half the food is already unsafe. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Distribution centers, not stores, are the real choke point. Those giant warehouses depend on conveyor belts, scanners, forklifts, trucks, and scheduling software. Take away electricity, and most of those can become dead metal sculpture gardens. This is why prepping isn't about apocalypse fantasies. It's about understanding how fragile a hyper-optimized system becomes when the optimization stops. The fifth collapse is the most invisible but also the most dangerous: Behavior. Human psychology erodes faster than infrastructure. The moment people sense that help isn't coming, cooperation becomes optional. This doesn't mean instant chaos, it means a slow migration from "we're in this together" to "I have to protect what's mine." Studies on disaster behavior show a predictable pattern. The first 12 hours bring unity, the next 24 bring doubt, and after 48 hours, desperation begins to eclipse patience. During a grid failure, the emotional timeline accelerates because communication is gone and information dries up. In the absence of facts, people manufacture their own. Fear becomes contagious. Neighborhoods that would normally coordinate begin locking down. Some people hoard quietly, others act first and justify later. This is where your mindset matters more than your gear. The ability to stay calm, make rational decisions, and read the social temperature around you becomes a survival skill. It works because humans are wired for social cues. Panic spreads through observation, and so does confidence. Those are the big five collapses, but the truth is that each of them feeds the next, forming a loop that tightens the longer the outage lasts. Predictability fails, making people anxious. Water fails, making people vulnerable. Communication fails, isolating them. Supply chains fail, starving them. Behavior fails, endangering them. If you understand this sequence, you're already safer than most. Because once you know what collapses first, you can prepare the countermeasures that last the longest. To outpace predictability collapse, you need a plan that doesn't rely on wishful thinking. Know how to shut off your home's water to protect the lines if pressure drops. Know where your non-electronic tools are. Know how to preserve food without power. You're not preparing for the end of the world. You're preparing for the end of assumptions. To outpace water collapse, store at least 1 gallon per person per day and have 2 purification methods, one mechanical, one thermal. Heat kills organisms because enzymes break down above certain temperatures. Filters remove particulate contaminants by forcing water through pores too small for microbes to pass. Neither requires the grid, only a small amount of foresight. To outpace communication collapse, choose radios that don't depend on cell towers. A simple battery-powered NOAA radio keeps you connected to emergency broadcasts. If you push further, learning basic ham radio operation gives you access to an entire parallel network that thrives specifically in grid-down events. To outpace supply chain collapse, focus on calories per cubic inch, shelf stability, and minimal cooking requirements. Foods high in fats and carbohydrates provide the most energy density. Canned goods, dried grains, and shelf-stable proteins don't care about blackouts. Your pantry becomes your own personal micro-distribution center, immune to whatever happens outside. To outpace behavior collapse, build connections before disaster strikes. Talk to neighbors. Know who has medical skills, who has tools, who has calm judgment under pressure. Communities that already trust each other survive better because social cohesion is an asset you can't buy during an emergency. Human resilience depends on relationships. People protect what they value, and they value what they know. There's a final truth lurking under all of this. Collapse isn't a single event. It's a chain reaction. And the fastest failing links are the ones modern life quietly hides from us. But if you recognize them now, long before the blackout comes, you won't be caught waiting for someone else to fix the problem. You'll already know that once the grid goes dark, the real power comes from what you prepared in the light. What most people don't realize about a prolonged grid failure is that survival isn't about stockpiles or brute strength. It's about managing momentum. Once collapse starts rolling downhill, everything tries to drag you with it. Fear, scarcity, misinformation, exhaustion. Your job is to slow that momentum long enough to make clear decisions while everyone else is running on instinct. And instinct in modern society is a terrible survival tool. The first momentum you have to control is time. In a world where everything is automated, you're used to time being carved into predictable blocks, work hours, store hours, traffic patterns, even meal times. When the grid goes down, all of that dissolves. Your sleep cycle drifts because there's no artificial light. Your meals shift because refrigeration is gone. Your ability to tell day from night narrows to something primal. That's why you need structure, simple, manual structure. A written schedule, tasks divided by daylight windows, routines that keep you from spiraling into idleness or panic. Humans need rhythm. Without it, the collapse inside your head happens faster than the collapse outside it. Next comes energy management, and not the power grid kind. Your energy. People burn themselves out in the first 48 hours because they treat the outage like a sprint. They haul water, reorganize supplies, try to reinvent their household systems, and then crash. But a blackout is a marathon disguised as a sprint. Conserving your physical effort becomes a science. Limit unnecessary movement, reduce tasks that require high caloric burn, and learn the survival trick of doing things slowly but continuously. It works because the human body is more efficient at steady, low-intensity work than bursts of frantic activity. You're not prepping for a productivity contest, you're prepping to endure. Then there's information triage, the skill that decides whether you stay rational or fall into the rumor spiral. When communication systems fail, the human brain compensates by amplifying every scrap of data it encounters. A neighbor's comment becomes a warning. A distant siren becomes a threat. A half-heard conversation becomes conspiracy. This is where you anchor yourself using sources that remain reliable even in a blackout. Battery radios, written local emergency guides, anything that provides concrete facts. The trick is to separate what is observable from what is interpreted. Observable facts keep you clear-eyed. Interpretation, unless you're trained, tends to tilt toward fear. Humans evolved to assume danger because it kept our ancestors alive. Modern disasters reveal just how quickly that instinct returns. But the most underestimated survival skill in a grid failure is food strategy, not in the sense of having enough, but in using it at the right pace. The average household eats its perishables first, which is correct, but then they make the fatal mistake of switching immediately to their long-term stores. The smarter strategy is to interleave. Use perishables aggressively, preserve what you can through dehydration or sun drying, and protect long-term stores for when you've exhausted every lasts a few days without power item. Calories become a currency, and spending them too quickly leaves you broke when it matters. This isn't just common sense, it's basic biology. Your body needs a stable caloric intake to keep judgment sharp and stress hormones under control. Sharp judgment reduces mistakes, and fewer mistakes reduce risk. Every disaster study proves the same point. People make dangerous decisions not because they're reckless, but because they're hungry, tired, and scared. As the blackout stretches from days into weeks, heat and cold management become the new governors of survival. Without HVAC systems, homes return to their natural thermal behavior. Hot in the day, cold at night. Understanding thermal mass, airflow, and insulation suddenly matters more than understanding your phone's operating system ever did. Blocking drafts with blankets, insulating windows with cardboard, using interior rooms as thermal buffers. These low-tech solutions work because they manipulate conduction and convection, the same physics that govern modern climate control systems. Fire becomes precious not just for warmth, but for morale. Humans are hardwired to relax around controlled flame. It signals safety on an instinctive level, which is why even a small candle can calm a panicked mind. Just don't be careless. In a blackout, a house fire becomes a catastrophe no one is coming to solve for you. But the most important extension of all, the part people underestimate until it's too late, is the collapse of social equilibrium. In long-term outages, communities naturally stratify into three groups. The first group adapts early, uses their resources wisely, and becomes an anchor for others. The second group waits for help that doesn't arrive and slowly drifts toward desperation. The third group accelerates toward aggression because they see scarcity as an opportunity. Your goal is to stay firmly in the first group while staying aware of the third. This is where soft skills, the ones everyone mocks until they need them, become essential. Negotiation, empathy, clarity, boundaries, the ability to say yes strategically and no decisively, the ability to form alliances without creating dependency. Humans are tribal creatures, and tribes form whether you intend them to or not. If you have skills, medical, mechanical, logistical, you become valuable. If you have supplies but no skills, you become a target. But if you have knowledge you can share, you become a stabilizing force. Stability attracts cooperation. Cooperation attracts loyalty. Loyalty becomes safety. The final truth you must understand is that survival isn't a list of gadgets or hacks. It's a set of habits. Habit of awareness, habit of preparation, habit of calm, habit of acting before the problem grows claws. When the grid collapses, it exposes everyone's habits instantly. Good habits keep you balanced while the world tilts. Bad habits turn small inconveniences into life-threatening spirals. If you take nothing else from this continuation, take this. A blackout isn't about darkness. It's about what fills the space when the noise of modern life goes quiet. You can fill that space with fear or with readiness. The collapse doesn't choose for you, you choose for yourself. If you want me to continue into part 3, covering long term survival, rebuilding stability, and advanced post collapse strategies,